Magnetized boots, he whispered. Commands flickered across the top right of his vision. Warning. But before he could hit, there were sparks of light across the hull of the Kobold Princess, as small ports opened and distributed countermeasures. Keel saw a glitter of metals like stardust spreading out between them. He managed to fling a hand over his head before he felt the impact of 1,000 small hammers of metal. Suit damage, all areas. Suit damage, breastplate, 85%. They're firing at us! Sabo, always expressive, snarled before Keel's feet hit the hull, and he was kicking forward, rolling through the void of space for a moment before slamming his feet down once more and running ahead. He felt a few bone-chilling seconds of weightlessness, and then he was on the hull of their target once more. He had made it. He wasn't going to spin off into space. Error. Wide comms down. His suit was spitting error messages at him. The Judgment, their home ship, had disappeared from his sensors. The small schematic of his squad was flickering in and out of existence. I think that was flak. They're running interference, Keel gasped, as he slowed to a slide across the metal. He turned back to see that Tobin, Jameson, and Sabo had made the jump, but Venez and Lafferty had disappeared off the plane of the ship's horizon. Where's the others? Keel shouted, hearing his voice come back at him with static. It was the damn flak the ship had fired. It was messing with their comms. One of the leading Imperial Marines, that Keel recognized as Tobin because of the small bronze holoshield that hung over his suit, was waving him closer. What was the protocol for going through interference? Keel couldn't remember the guidance they had received in their daily strategy sessions, lessons where they were plugged into a training cradle to run through virtual simulations of past battles, drilling lore, tactics, and data into the premium warriors of the human galactic Imperium. Look, Keel grumbled. He couldn't remember. The lessons hadn't covered that. PFC Hennity and the rest of the 3-3 squad had only been downloaded as Imperial Marines for the past 9 or 10 months. And it had only been about 2 months since the events at Quadrant 4 and the arrival of the alien Jali into the Imperium. So far, they had spent all that time on the Judgment, under the accusatory eye of Major Ovid, and had gone through any number of training assignments and missions. None of them, however, had featured what to do when the enemy tried to fire flak at you. He ran over to where Tobin, Sabo, and Jameson were. Tobin grabbed his arm, and the connection light in his vision flared a bright green. Kobold Princess didn't respond to the Judgment's hail, and now she's firing flak at us. I think it's safe to say this is a pirate ship, right? He was saying, looking quickly between the three as they each digested what that meant. They had to find and capture the pirates, who were already hostile, after losing communication with their parent ship. It was just then that Keel saw a flash across Tobin's shoulder, and they all turned to see a rising string of plasma bolts coming from the far side of the Kobold Princess, where Venez and Lafferty had landed. Someone was firing on their squad. Go! Tobin said, breaking their physical connection as they all turned and bounded over the hull towards the firefight. Chapter 2. Strewn across 3 star systems. Keel heard Venez try to say something, but it collapsed into a static snarl before he could make out the words. He saw the horizon of the ship rising to greet him as he thundered over the hull of Kobold Princess, the giant jets of the ship's engines ahead of them. There, the string of plasma bolts striking out into the dark. They're insane! We have an entire Imperial warship behind us! Keel gasped, knowing that the Judgment could blow this ship out of the ether with less thought than it took to swat a fly. He knew only too well, however, that desperate people lived desperate lives. Once upon a time, the biological Keel had come from the outer systems, where they now were. These systems were the farthest from the seat of the Empire, Emperor Mikhail XIII and his custom-built planet of Solus. The outer systems were considered lawless, for the most part, and no place was more unruly than Keel's desert home planet of Dracus, where the Reptilis Draco Galactus, or Star Dragon, originated. Sabo was pointing ahead, and Keel saw 2 gun emplacements on the lower hull. Both were streaking fire perilously close to their own hull, as the 2 long-barreled